Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Another exciting show, another exciting guest. Today, we're going to go to England, and we're going to talk about one lady's journey into coming to a new country, evolving as one of the premier bodybuilders, and something else, just changing a new directory now into real estate and all kind of stuff. But remember, it's that beast mindset. So everything isn't about trauma on shows. Sometimes we can go a little fun. And that's what we're about to do today. Let's welcome to the show all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, by way of England, Serena Roe to the show. Welcome, Serena. How you doing?
Good. Thank you, Andre. Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about that beautiful accent. England. England.
Yes.
Oh, England. I like the way it sounds better when you're probably over there. Well, what's it like? What's it like
over there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's like quaint. I loved growing up in England. I wouldn't change it. It was pretty. It was just quaint, and I loved that the people were they didn't have a lot going on because we didn't have a lot of money, so we were just down. It was more down to earth. I would say more down to earth. It was just down to earth.
Now, there is a little bit of history with you.
Yes.
And not where you was just born in England, but Stonehenge.
Stonehenge. Close to Stonehenge. Yep. And Oxford.
You say close. How close is close?
Now, I was young, so I don't know. To me, it felt like an hour, but it probably was only like 10 minutes.
Did you visit it as a child? Did you visit?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, we did. We didn't go a lot of places because we didn't have a lot of money at the time when we were younger. But, I rode my bicycle everywhere, all over in England to get everywhere. I mean, you'd see me just riding my bike. I'd just leave the house and go. So, but I was telling you earlier that, my dad was the milkman for Ian Fleming, which was funny because the kids didn't care about James Bond. All they cared about was my dad was a milkman and drove the truck. What
is the relationship between your dad, the milkman, Ian Fleming, and 007? What's that connection?
He needed the money, and Ian Fleming lived about a couple miles from where we lived. Mm. So my dad would go and deliver him milk because we had milk trucks, and they bring the bottles of milk. Mm. So that's how we got our milk. That's what my dad did for extra money. Till he backed the truck up into a wall and got fired. So.
He ran
the truck back.
007's place?
I don't think it was 007's, but it was someone else's house he backed into.
So what are some of the most precious memories that you remember about growing up? Because you stayed there till what? You was 18 years old? I
was 18. I remember my dad telling us that we were getting another job in the States, and my mum didn't want to leave. She did not want to come to the States. Mm-hmm. And I was sad to go because I had really good times. I just always remember it felt secure and it was safe. Like I could go back even now. And if I go running down the streets, the people still remember me. They'll still say my name, and it's family. That's how it felt.
What did you know about the States prior to having to deport? What did you know about it?
Not much. More like watching 90210 when I was younger. Watching really? TV. Oh, Magnum PI. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Everybody drove a Ferrari and looked like Magnum.
Really? So you knew about Hawaii and California?
Yeah. Nothing. Maybe some New York. New York too.
New York. Okay. Yeah. What was scary for you at 18? Because you're still. When did you come back? You departed from England at the age of 18, correct?
Yeah, it was 8/8/88. I arrived in the States. August 8th, the 8th, 88.
What was that like?
It was scary, to be honest. I'm kind of independent, being the second oldest child of 5. And I've always been driven, like with sports. So for me, I was actually going to go work on the QE2 as a hairdresser stylist, but I was too young. So I was ready to just take off. But when I came here, I was thrown into a really small town outside of Chicago, and I didn't have problems, making friends or anything. I just kind of started working and making friends. I'm not someone who gets scared by challenges. I actually kind of thrive on that stuff.
What kind of occupation did your father wind up with to allow him to come to the United States versus staying in England?
Yeah, he was a fluid power. I could get this wrong. He's a fluid power engineer. So he used to work for companies. He worked for a Danish company, and then he would go and work all over the world and build with these big trucks and do their power systems or something. So they needed somebody over here with his background, and they didn't have anyone at the time. So that's how we ended up over here. But once my mom was here, she loved it. She wished she'd come sooner.
How long did it take your mom and your siblings to adjust?
I think my mom, it was quite a few years, 4 years. Because my dad was traveling all the time. So my mom was alone with the kids. I was obviously older. I was 18. My brothers and sisters were younger than me. So it was just a little more time. But she did well. She was resilient with everything.
How did you know what pathway that you wanted to land? Because everybody wants to come to America.
Yeah.
To be rich, to be famous, to be seen.
Yeah.
It's the land of milk and honey is what they call it. When you got here, how did you know which direction that you wanted to choose as a career path? Because you're still 18 years old. You're still young. You have the whole world ahead of you.
Well, I didn't. First of all, when I was 15, I graduated high school because my birthday fell early, not because I was super smart, because we graduated at 16, and my mom had always wanted to be a hairstylist. So at the time in England, she made me go to work in a hair salon. So I was going to high school and working in the hair salon. And then I graduated high school and kept going I did an apprenticeship. So I was already a stylist by the time I'd done 2 years of college too. So when I came to the States, I was already a hairdresser. So I really got thrown into that career by my mom's desire to be a stylist. So it wasn't something I chose, but I love it. And then...
Go ahead.
No, I met my dad, actually. This is funny. My dad heard a guy on the radio. He was from Scotland, and he had a hair salon called Atlantic Crossing. So my dad called him up and said, "Hey, I've got this daughter, and she's a stylist, and she needs a job." So he said, "Well, bring her in for an interview." Well, let's see. It was like the Von Trapp family went for the interview. I was 18. My mum and one of the brothers was still in England, but the other 3 were with me. So my parents, my mum picked my outfit out, and my 3 siblings came for my interview. And my friend Hugh at the time, who's my boss, was like, I didn't know what to think because you all came in lined up, and I'm just sitting there like this. Yeah. So I started working for him for 7 years, actually.
What was 3 of the most difficult transformations for you coming here to get adjusted to? Did you just assimilate like this, or?
I did. Yeah.
Really?
I think
nothing hard for you?
No, it wasn't. Things have never been hard. Like I've gone from England to Rockford. It was outside Chicago, Rockford. And then from there, I've moved to Georgia, and I've moved in homes. I just find myself adapting. To me, I just think you just pick up and just keep going every day. I don't fret about anything like that. Nothing like that.
So you landed in Rockford, Illinois.
Yes, Rockford, yeah.
Funny. I won the Rockford bodybuilding championships back in the day.
You did? Which year?
I can't remember because I'd be showing my age.
Because I did one in Rockford. My first one was Rockford.
They used to have it at the Rockford, at this movie theater.
Yeah.
And I remember I had Rich... The chairman for the Illinois region his name was Rich something. He was an Italian guy.
Yeah.
And he would always call me and say, "Hey, Dre, you need to come to Chicago." I did so many shows in Chicago, in the Chicago, Rockford, Illinois regionals. It was crazy. But I remember this one time I went there, I was really, really excited because we're going to go into your bodybuilding career.
Yeah.
JJ Marsh, this is how long ago this was.
I'm going to look him
JJ
up.
Marsh was guest posing that night.
Okay.
And I had to make sure I was at that show because you're into bodybuilding, what you're going to get into. Most black guys don't have great quads in bodybuilding.
I didn't know
JJ
that.
Marsh had, now they do, but back then they didn't. JJ Marsh had phenomenal quads.
Yeah.
And I went because I really wanted to meet him, but to ask him his training regimen. Like, how do you develop such a humongous sweep?
Yeah.
And I love Rockford. I love their bodybuilding community. I love the Chicago community in general as a bodybuilding capital, a mecca of the Midwest. Let's go here real quick. Now that we're on that subject, you said you've always been an athlete.
Yes.
When did bodybuilding take place? And I take it you've done the Rockford Bodybuilding Championships too.
I did. Okay. So I was a gymnast in England. Again, I had to pester my parents to get me into a club.
Right.
I ended up where I started late, but ended up on the national team for England. Very short career that, but I've been doing that since I was born. I would come out flipping. So I was in Rockford and I met a friend of mine at the tumbling club who was Michael Golkin was his last name. He was actually in the Cirque du Soleil. And I used to carry around those Oxygen magazines and Muscle and Fitness magazines with women. Yeah. And I took them to the gym. I was the only female. And I always wanted to be like Jen Hendershot, Kelly Ryan, all of them.
Whoa. Hold down a minute. You know, I know Jen Hendershot in those.
Oh my God. If you just said that, I'm going to bring up I'm going to send you the picture of the magazine. It's ripped with her on the front. And I'm actually in an advertisement inside the magazine. And I was like, I always wanted to be inside those magazines. Always like them.
Jen Hendershot is by far one of the best fitness competitors that grace the circuit. And I'm fortunate to have met her, fortunate to have been her friend. Yeah. But I remember that she literally changed the game of fitness and figure.
Yeah. She was like, I would watch them and read every article and take my magazine to the gym and follow the workouts. And I was getting ready to do a fitness. I was going to do the fitness just like them. And I trained with my friend from the Cirque du Soleil and I was about 32 at the time. And as I was flipping one day on the mat, my feet stuck with the tennis shoes and I dislocated both ankles and tore all my ligaments at the same time.
Wow.
And I'd already been 7 weeks into prepping. I had like 7 more weeks to go.
Right.
So I had air casts on and would go to the gym. My feet were black from my toes to my kneecaps. And I still went to the gym and trained upper body. I did the Beverly International program because I didn't know what to do because I really had no.
Oh my gosh. You know Roger and Sandy?
Not really. No, I just know of them. I'm like,
okay. Yeah. I know Roger and Sandy. Okay. Keep going.
So I took the air casts off 2 days prior and I thought, well, I still want to compete. So I heard bodybuilding. I had a bikini at the time I've paid for these, but I had no boobs. The bra, you could put like triple fists down. It didn't fit. Took the cast off, stepped on stage and won my first bodybuilding show.
There's no way. Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I thought, well, I could do this. And then I didn't do it again for years. It was 2018. I'm now in Georgia. And somebody said to me, do you think you could ever just lift weights? And I was like, oh yeah, I could do that. The gymnast brain comes into, you to ask me, I will do it and just keep going. Right. So I was training for the Georgia for 2019. And I had a trainer and I wasn't coming down. It was really hard for me I was square and horrible. And hired Shelby Starnes at the time for 8 weeks. You probably heard of him. And he worked me and I won. I won overall and I won my division at the time too. So I was like, okay, I think I can do this. I can do this.
So why do you think it took so long to develop the bug? Because usually when you get on that stage, it's almost like an addiction. You know what I mean? You actually want to go back and do it. I tell people it's like getting a tattoo.
Yeah.
You know, once you get up there, it's a different ball game.
Yeah. I went on to do Taekwondo.
Okay.
And and also I had a business and my son was 5 when I did my first show. So life kind of just took over at the time. And it wasn't till I got here in Georgia that I was challenged and I did the Georgia and I was like, okay, I like this. And then I got into that world of, I couldn't do gymnastics anymore and my body wasn't doing Taekwondo. I pulled away from that for moving to Georgia. So then I went into the bodybuilding world. I could lift weights. My body wasn't because I was hurting doing all the functional training, taekwondo. I was always black, blue, torn muscles, torn everything. So I did the 2019, and then COVID happened and I couldn't compete. And then I went on to do, I won the Clash of the Titans here. I think it was 2021. Went on to nationals in Charleston, but it was the New Jersey because of COVID. And I got fifth. And I was, to be honest, I was pissed off. I got fifth because I was used to getting first in everything I'd done. And I met, what's that?
I said, at least you're not modest.
No, I was like, this sucks. So, and I didn't like the way I looked. I'd started to thicken up. I'd been dieting for so long. And you know who was there was Damon Sergio or Sergio.
Yeah.
I don't even know. He was there and he was really, obviously I'm 4'9". He's like, looks like 7 feet.
Right.
So I walked up to him and I was like, I know who you are. And he's like looking down at me and he goes, wow, you're tiny. And I said, I want to hire you. And he said, okay. So I hired him. And that was it. That's all it took was hiring Damon. And it took from August to the next July, I turned pro and won the Pittsburgh. I won my division and the overall champion in my age group too.
That's beautiful. And a lot of people don't understand the road to preparation to get there, to the hours of relentless training. And there is a difference. I think a lot of people don't understand this because now you see so many people in the social media that's, especially women, and I'm not knocking. I think it's cool. I love to see it. But it's almost like now there's no, the rules have changed.
Yeah.
Because now everybody can become a pro.
No.
You know, I think back in the day, it was really hard to get that pro status. Now it seems like anytime you're looking at social media, a girl is a professional or she's a fitness pro, but you don't see. This is what I don't see.
Yeah,
and I give you credit. I don't see a lot of bodybuilding women that have mastered what you've mastered. What do you think has changed over the course of the years? We mentioned great people like Jen Hendershot, yourself. What do you think has changed for the women?
I think today, and you hear all the stories with all the stuff people take. Yeah. I do think, and I get this. Like I hear people saying like, and I'm not trying to knock women lifting women. I support all my women. I'm an advocate for them, all my clients. Right. But I do think it's got to the stage where anyone can just do it, and you can do a half kind of ass job at times. Mm-hmm. And step on stage and everyone's like, good. Like everybody gets that medal. Whereas when we talked about when we were doing it, not everyone gets a medal. And there's times when you're told it's not good enough. You got to fix it. Yeah. And your brain goes into the work of like, okay, how can I fix this? You can't always be the best or I just trained someone recently. She's a beautiful girl and she got 5th in her open division and she was thrilled. But you're not always going to place. But that negative side, to me, drives me to work harder. So getting 5th was like a smack in the face of like, Serena, you're not good enough. You better work harder. Most people today are like, well, if I don't get first, it's not good enough. Or if I get 20th, I'm still a winner. I'm like, no, you've got to put the effort in. Like you said, the time.
But I think they didn't give out 20th place.
Yeah.
I'm like, when you go to the nationals, you're lucky. You're praying that out of maybe 50 guys or women in your weight class that you make the top 15.
Yeah.
You know what? You're happy if you make the top 15 to come back the next day. Because if your number ain't on the board, you go home.
You're going home. I know. Actually, it was at Pittsburgh. They lined us up at the night. It was 9:00 at night, and they lined us up, and I was at the back of the line. And the guy comes up for the finals, and he said, "You're going to go on stage, and you're going to get your medal, and you're going to leave." And I'm like, "I lost." I was like, "Jesus, I've lost." Like my heart sank. And then somebody came up and said, "No, you're in the top 5 or 6." It was for my height. I'm obviously A division. So, but to realize you put all that work in, and when you do accomplish something like that, the hard work, you realize, okay, I'm still overwhelmed. I still don't think I'm a bodybuilder like Jen Hendershot. I was just telling my clients, like, here's the magazine. I became exactly what I wanted to be. And I'm thrilled. But in my world, I still never look good enough. I still have to put a lot of work in for myself every day, whether it's just to look like how I want to look. But I never feel like I'm quite there as a person. But today, I do think we are awarding people for okay training and not excellent training.
I'm glad you said that, because I don't like people to think that I'm bashing.
No, I don't.
I get what it takes, but I also know that I came from an era that you're right. You went to a show and everybody was good.
Yes.
Your top 5 was just as good as your next top 10. I remember, this is a true story.
Yeah.
The North America Bodybuilding Championships.
I know that one.
I didn't understand kilos, so I actually came in a pound above
a
weight class. I literally started crying.
Yeah.
But I remember at that show, there was 2 people that stood out. It was Vinny Galante, because Vinny was in the bathroom, and we, you know, you put the makeup, the protein and stuff on, and you kind of knew who was going to be the crowd favor, or because they didn't have social media back then. You know, we had VHS tapes and just getting ready to go to CDs. You know what I mean?
I know. I used to watch them.
Yeah. And I remember this one guy stood out to me, and it was Dexter Jackson.
Oh, yes.
And I had the privilege to be in the same, not the same division, but compete with him at the North America. But I remember his class came on right after mine, and I looked at that guy and I was like, that guy's going to be the next Mr. Olympia. It was not a shred of doubt. And you're talking, that's the first year that they did the super heavyweight. So now you have people like Dave Palumbo.
Yes.
You have the emerging of a new synthetic drug called growth hormone that made the scenes that judges didn't know how to deal with, because the judges were trying to keep it an even playing field. But let's get real. We'll talk about this.
Yeah.
People often ask a question, have you ever used, and this is what I tell people.
Mm-hmm.
You may start out in anything that you do and say, I would never do that.
Yeah.
Until you're faced with the adversity of not winning and getting beat by your adversaries.
Yep.
The game began to change a little bit.
Yeah, it did.
For you. So what's your take on that? Because I'm seeing a lot of that now being accepted as the way to go.
Yeah.
When back in the day it was there, but it may not have been as prevalent, or you may have knew individuals that knew how to beat the system.
Yes.
What's your take on that now? Because now it's almost rampant.
Yeah, I'm glad the way you're putting this, because there was a time where I was like, I would never even think about doing anything. And as I progressed in the world of bodybuilding, you do realize that you're not going to be able to achieve a certain level without trying something. Now, the one thing which I do love about who I've been with for trainers is they're very minimal, because I'm small. I made it very clear, whatever I took, I did not want to become a man. I did not want to have the manly features. You know, it does affect your voice a little bit. But today's young girls, I talk to them, because some of the girls come up in the gym and they're like, well, I want to go take something. And I'm like, well, hold on. Is your diet completely correct? Like, are you doing everything you can with your diet? Well, no, I just, I don't like doing that part. Okay. Are you maxed out at your natural potential for your lifting? Have you done anything and everything to see where your body can get to? Like gymnastics, you will push yourself over and over and over. And then with weightlifting, I feel the same. You get to the point where, okay, this is about as much as I can do before I test something. But have you given it everything? Well, not really. So my opinion to them is, when you get all those variables in place, then you think about talking to somebody about that. And I think it's scary to think today's world is they jump to that.
Yeah. And it's funny that you said that, because that's how I approached it.
Yeah.
When people ask me, I say, you know what? I had to analyze all the variables.
Yeah.
all the variable, and not leave out nothing. But I think what I did that was unheard of at the time, I consulted with my doctors, and I'm like, look, this is what I need to do to get to this particular level. And I was cool with the judges because I traveled all over to compete, because that's the only way you can get your name out. It would be nothing for me every Saturday to be in the car driving to Florida, driving to California, driving here, the Emerald, the Classics, wherever there was a major show, I had to be there.
Yeah.
But I had to build a relationship with the head judges, and I allowed the judges to tell me, what I'm looking at the score sheets. I'm looking at this. I want to be in the top 5, but I want to win too.
Yes.
And we had to sit down and have a heart-to-heart talk. What's the best road to health, longevity, and to still enjoy the sport? And more importantly, my fourth thing was, I want to leave on my own terms.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? Are you still competing, or did you leave on your own terms?
I actually was going to step on stage 2023 for like my pro debut, and something happened in my life that kind of turned my world upside down. And I just decided I was done. I was just going to take a break. I needed to focus on, my life, my work. I had been, for years, I got diagnosed with pre-diabetes. I actually went into full-blown diabetes, but lately we've been able to kind of pull me back a bit more. And that wasn't because of anything I've done. It was because of all the sports I've done. So my body needed that break, and my kids were happy too, because it was rough when I was competing. You'd never see me, and I'd hit some lows.
What did your mom and dad say about your bodybuilding career when they saw you on stage?
My parents don't really know what I do in my life. Apparently I play hair, like I do with dolls. And my parents now my mom's gone, but my parents were always like, oh, she's doing some fitness thing. You're always at the gym. And my mom, they liked it, but they never really understood it. I was actually at a martial arts. I was in a fight one time, and I'm in my 30s, and my mom was sitting in the benches, and she's yelling, kill the bitch, kill the bitch. And I said, you can't do that. You'll get me kicked out. I can't do it. So that was probably the only thing she ever came to. But no, they didn't really know much about they're proud of me, but they just didn't really understand it, I don't think.
Now, you just lost your mom recently.
I did.
Correct?
Yeah, suddenly.
How much of an impact was she in your life, and what was that? How did that change the way you looked at life in general with having your own family? She
was a great mom. She was a tough mom. What I loved too was, like I said, with the gymnastics, she would be in the kitchen with me and demonstrating like how you had to make bigger movements, and she would show me how to be showmanship. My mom was a very beautiful woman, black hair, green eyes, stunning little body, could wear a bikini till she was in her 60s. But as a mom, she was a tough mom, but she was also a very loving mom. We miss her very much. But yeah, I wish she could be here to see some of the things I've done now, but she's not here. But yeah, we miss her. She was a great mom.
Well, how do your kids look at what you did as an all-around athlete in bodybuilding and stuff? I tell, this is so funny. Like people don't. If you're new, a lot of people don't know I was a professional bodybuilder, an Olympic candidate, played. Well, I don't harp on those things. Now, I got rid of like all my trophies, maybe except for like 1 or 2. And I remember somebody asked me, it was like, well, why did you get rid of all that stuff? Why didn't you leave it for your kids? I'm like, my kids ain't interested in my bodybuilding career. What I look like saying, okay, follow this. That was my journey. You know what I'm saying? It was my journey. So how do your kids look up to you, and what do you, knowing how your mom and your dad raised you, the groundwork?
Yeah.
Times have changed. What do you tell your kids, and how do they look at you?
All right. So I have a 28-year-old, and he's married. He's very bright, great boy. He was in soccer and competed, and he loves what I've done. He doesn't really talk much about it. And I have a 16-year-old daughter who, she kind of doesn't like that I've done some of this stuff. She doesn't like the pictures are out there of her mom in a bikini, and she gets really mad at me. So I don't really talk about it with them as much. I'm like you. I win and I move on. And I got rid of my trophies. I got crowns. I could wear multiple crowns, medals, belts, swords, jackets to the grocery store if I wanted to. But I just kind of just don't talk about it much. People ask me, but I just don't really say anything. So I just feel like it's something that was my goal, my internal like feelings, and I'm happy I just did it. But no, they don't really talk about it.
You know, you're a very odd anomaly here because you turned pro at such a late. Mm-hmm. Well, I wouldn't say old, but it's really rare for individuals to turn pro at a later part of their life when you have people hungry. I call them beast minds, that hungry attitude. You know, they want that. You know what I mean? How difficult was it for you to change the mindset for you? Because you're competing against younger women.
Well, I didn't really. I mean, really, I was in my age division and my height. I did go younger. I got second in the 45 because I'm in my 50s. I'm turning 55 this year. But I didn't have to go against 20-year-olds, which, to be honest, today's world, that would be really tough for a 50-year-old, I think, personally. But my mindset is, so the book by Michael Jordan's coach, I think there's 3 kinds of minds. There's the person who you're going to ask them to say step on stage and they'll be like, oh, okay then. And then they never do it. Then there's the second person who you ask them, okay, I need you to step on stage. And they'll be like, oh, is Andre doing it? You're like, oh yeah, he is. And then they're like that competition. Then there's the third person, which is like the Michael Jordan, probably like yourself, like myself. You just have that goal and you will do anything and everything to get to that goal at that point. So it's more of a personal thing, I think. Yeah. I mean, when you get to nationals, you realize that, wow, everybody is really good. Everybody's really good. You know, it's all the top first and second.
That's usually what when I was a trainer and people would come to me, I say, you know, you're doing local shows. That's cool.
Yeah.
The pinnacle of a contest is 2 things. Getting to the national levels where you don't do those no more. Because once you have surpassed that level, now you got to start asking yourself, are you willing to put in the next level of work? Mm-hmm. Are you willing to know that only a point is going to separate you from the other person? It's just as good. I mean, we've seen many awakens, just like Kevin Larone. Nobody knew who the fuck Kevin Larone was. Yeah. Until he showed up to a bodybuilding contest on a national circuit. But the trainers knew who he was. You see what I'm saying? So are you prepared to meet the unknown? Like the Vic Richards. The Vic Richards that nobody knew about. That was somewhere in Africa that was humongously big. He was such a phenomenon. They hurried up and gave him a pro card just so he could compete on the pro circuit. You know what I mean? Jeez. So you got to ask yourself, are you really ready to see what's really out there?
Yeah. No, I think today, like, and, you know, again, it's not to knock. You see people in the gym and, you know, they'll be like, oh, walking around. And I'm little. I go to shows. I remember being back at Pittsburgh at the Nationals. And, you know, obviously it's full of women. Every female looks massive. I'm 4'9". I weigh 106 on stage. I look like this teeny tiny little girl. But when I start posing, everybody's like, you blow up like a puffer fish. But I had the shape and the condition and the symmetry. And it was the genetics really that my shape is just made for that. But when you go backstage, these young kids, they're in the gym and they'll see, and I'm like, you have no idea, to get to that next level, your mind has to be somewhere completely. It's not about when you get chubby in off season, no one tells you look good. You know you're working. You got to put that work in, eat, feed yourself and lift. When you look horrible, you know, I'd get to like 130, which I know everyone's like, that's not heavy, but I'm 4'9". That's heavy for me. Yeah. And you don't feel good. You're eating so much food. You're exhausted. Are they ready to really take that next step of doing pretty much a year of looking like that and then coming down and stepping on stage?
Before we wrap up, such a great story of. What was it like for you? I got to ask this question. I keep bringing her name up. What was it like when you met Jennifer Henderson? And what a great person to mentor behind.
Well, I didn't meet her. She's on my magazine.
What was that like with her when she was there with you?
Oh no, she wasn't at the show. I had her on the magazines. I used to take her.
Oh, you used to remember you wanted to be like her. So have you ever met her?
No. I'm going to come out and see you. You can bring her up there and then we can do a show together. So,
I think you know what? I'm going to have to do some research to see if she's still in Ohio.
is she? I have a picture of her of like in her 50s, and I was like, okay, I want to look like that now. So I'd love to pick her brain. But no, they were my idols, and I just would carry them. I've still got it in my bag. I took it to show my clients that I wanted to be that manifest. You know, when you manifest what you want to be, which I didn't know that in those days. It was just I want to be that. And now I realize, wow, I am an IFBB pro. But I mean, she to me is like here. I'm like here. So. But no, I would love to, yes.
Let me ask you a question. You're IFBB Pro. This is something that a lot of people that I talk to, especially young people, men and women and so forth, they always think there's light at the end of the rainbow. But so before we wrap up, we're going to go here because I think it's important for people to know.
Yeah.
Because you turn pro does not mean you're going to have a lucrative amount of money.
No.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit? Because I think that's the misconception that people begin to get, and they think, "Well, I'm gonna turn pro. I'm gonna get this." I'm like, you have no idea what's next for you.
No,
you have no idea what's about to happen.
I actually, if I was younger, I realized how much money I spent to turn pro. It's a ridiculous amount for shows. Now, I wouldn't change it for the world. I really do. I love the fact that I had, even from a child, would love to have been a pro athlete. I did become it by the time I'm 52. But the minute you become pro means that the work really starts. It's like turning black belt in martial arts. You then are really a white belt, and the hard work is going to start to earn the money. And you put out a lot of money, and some of these young kids don't realize how expensive it is. Now, I'm not saying don't do it. Because if you want to do it, I think do anything you love, but realize that it costs a lot of money. But when you're pro, you still got to work hard and put the money out to earn money back. So, I mean,
when you do that, I mean, look at Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is the risk worth the rewards?
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah, and even for myself, building a training business, nobody looks at you and goes, oh, I'm pro, you're pro, everybody flocks to you and you make tons of money. It doesn't happen like that. You still have to work really hard to build a business. So for myself, if I was younger, I probably would turn around and take that money and invest it somewhere else. Property, there you go.
So what are you doing now with you're now pro, you're training people. What else are you doing? You're in the real estate. How did that come about before we wrap up? How did that come about?
Well, that was when my world got turned upside down. My son was in commercial real estate, and I always liked the idea of selling a home. And myself, I bought a home when I got divorced, and it was a big accomplishment for myself. So I took my course, took a long time to take my course because I was working 2 other jobs. And then once I did it again, another goal. I won't stop. I won't quit. I mean, it was tough, but I did it. The exam was probably the hardest thing I've done for a long time, but I love it. I throw it into, if I get up every day, you go train people, then I got to come home, shower, then maybe go do a couple of hair colors, and then get home and then work on my computer for the real estate. But I wouldn't trade that for the world. The real estate for me, being older, is going to be like my retirement job where I'm making extra bonus money. That's kind of how I look at it.
That's why you say you should have took your money and put it in real estate, huh?
Yes, exactly. If I was smarter, I would have had multiple places. Was it rental places, flippers?
So it's been a journey for you here. Are you glad for the decision to come here to the United States?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, I'm thrilled. I still keep in touch with all my friends on Facebook from England, my childhood friends. So one day I'll go see them. I was actually the quiet girl in England who was they always said, you'd see me just flipping around everywhere, just upside down. But no, I wouldn't change coming to the States. I've made so many great friends, more family friends than anything. Met amazing people like yourself.
Thank you. So how can the viewers reach out to you, know more about you, follow you, and support you?
Of course, I never know my Instagram names, but I'm on TikTok. I'm under Serena Moves You because I can move your body and your hair and your house. So we can do all of it.
You can do it. Serena, you can do it all.
Oh, I wrote a children's book too. I'm about to publish, so I haven't got that one out yet.
Well, wait a minute. What's the name of the book?
This is about my daughter. It's for 3 to 7-year-olds called Emmy Ballou had toilet paper stuck to her shoe. And she goes to a zoo to have the animals help her.
So when is this supposed to make its debut?
I'm working on that. I've actually just got to put it together. It's been copyrighted and I've got my ISBN number, and then I got to put the book together and put it out. I'll put it on my Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook.
Definitely have you come back and talk about that and a heck of a lot more. Appreciate you coming on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you reach out, subscribe, support. All it takes is one click to make a friend or to learn something new about somebody. This has been another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show.